All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Arthritis Life podcast. Today, it's going to be a little bit different than usual because today I'm going to be on the other side of the microphone. So, Lauren, who you might remember from her episode, Lauren Huffman, on the podcast, I'll link to that in the show notes, talking about being a therapy dog trainer or just regular dog trainer and having juvenile ankylosing spondylitis. Lauren is who also helps with the Room to Thrive program. She is going to be interviewing me today to discuss how I formed this program and how the 6 ingredients to thrive with rheumatoid arthritis, how I came up with those, and basically just explore the origin story, which now it's been 5 years since I first started putting together Arthritis Life and Room to Thrive. So I'm very excited to have you, and I will hand you the microphone now, metaphorically and
Yeah,
physically.
it is so exciting to show a peek behind the Room to Thrive curtain. So the first question I have for you is, what made you start Arthritis Life? What problems were you trying to solve?
Yeah, and the world was quite different even just 5 years ago in 2019. But in 2019, had this idea of in my head I called it like the arthritis talk show, like an educational YouTube channel where I would share tips and tricks for living a full, good life with rheumatoid arthritis. And the reason I wanted to do that is that I had participated in social media groups, like disease specific social media groups, particularly on Facebook at that time. And I noticed that people were constantly saying they just felt completely in the dark about how to manage their condition. Like they understood from their doctor about medication and they didn't know, they like, I've heard of all these other things you can do to help with your symptoms, like pain and fatigue. I heard that you can maybe use like a hot pack or a cold pack, but when do I use this one? When do I use that one? When do I'm supposed to exercise? But that's confusing because I feel tired. So you're telling me to exercise when I feel tired and it's going to help my fatigue, but then I feel more tired. Like it's so confusing to figure out how to navigate everyday life with rheumatoid arthritis. And as at the time I was working in a traditional, in this, 2013 to 2019, I was working in pediatrics, which is a very well-served area of occupational therapy. I think there was at least 20 pediatric occupational therapists in just the school district I was working at. There were 6 at the outpatient clinic I was working at, and it was great. I love working with children, but I kept saying when I would, as a patient, encounter these other patients on social media, someone needs to help these patients. Like someone needs to do something, and and I was like, finally, I had heard this voice in my head, like, you are someone, like you can help people. And I had done a few volunteer gigs with like the Arthritis Foundation and done some patient education, just quick, like 1 hour presentations. I don't call them like, life hacks for arthritis. And everyone was so grateful and so like they responded so positively to that. And I thought, wow, like I'm really able to help people who are not getting any help at all. That's actually more gratifying to me in some ways. Not to say it's apples and oranges. I loved working in pediatrics, but I was like, there's something very fulfilling about serving a need that no one else is filling, and that's really the problem I was trying to solve is why are people being given one 20-minute appointment every 3 months to manage this severe, very quality of life threatening, very confusing and overwhelming diagnosis of inflammatory arthritis. So, I discovered this concept of ikagi, which is like the nexus between there's like 4 overlapping circles. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can you get paid for to, sustain your livelihood? And I realized all those things were true of being a pediatric occupational therapist, but the world didn't need like OT number 21 in my area. But like the world really needed OT number 20. They didn't need an OT number 21 for like pediatrics in my like suburb. There was 0 people doing the help. I am still, if you're out there doing this, please let me know. But I still have very rarely encountered people providing comprehensive self-management programs for people with rheumatic diseases and inflammatory arthritis specifically. So I decided to form my own solution, which initially I thought, okay, let me just start it as an educational channel, and then I'll see if I can develop some sort of like program or offering later on. So that was kind of the vision in 2019.
That's amazing. I think that's filling such an important gap. I mean, you already know I feel that way about it.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next question. How did you get started developing your own unique educational framework, and coming up specifically with the Room to Thrive framework?
Yeah, so another thing that happened in 2019 that was really good timing was that I took a chronic illness self-management facilitator training. So there's this standardized program that's called Chronic Illness Self-Management Program, and it's it's comprehensive, but it's very basic. Like I think it's made for like a sixth grade educational level, but it's a good start, and it's very broad for any chronic illness, whether that's diabetes, whether that's heart disease, whether that's osteoarthritis, or whether that's rheumatoid arthritis. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Okay, you can lead people through like step by step, teaching them the different ways of managing their condition. But I was like, this is a good start. But I think people with rheumatoid arthritis really need something more in depth. And I was like, again, found that myself having that voice in my head. Someone should do this. Someone should make a program for people with rheumatoid arthritis. And I started with rheumatoid arthritis only because that's what I have. That's what I have most experience with. So I decided that I would form my own program. But I initially decided to call it the Rheumatoid Arthritis Roadmap. So if you listen to some of the older episodes of this podcast, you can hear me talk about Rheumatoid Arthritis Roadmap. That was what over time I evolved it into Rheum to Thrive, which is the Rheum is like Rheum, so short for rheumatic disease. And it actually applies to all of the kinds of inflammatory arthritis. So ankylosing spondylitis, other like non-radiographic axial spondyloarthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and rheumatoid arthritis. So I did that. So actually didn't develop these until 2020 during the pandemic. So I incorporated Arthritis Life as like an LLC in 2019. And then I developed during COVID, I suddenly had all this time at home and I was like, okay, I want to do something productive with this time. So then I have all these little, as my son was doing online kindergarten at this time in 2020, I I also started working with a business coach named Melissa, who she's really great. She really helped me kind of identify because I thought, oh, I could write a book. I could do so many different things. Like I want to help people. What's the best, most efficient way to do that? And she recommended that I kind of build out a comprehensive self-management program, which is what now Room to Thrive is. Um, so the two-part question is like, yeah, how did I come up with the Room to Thrive framework specifically? So I actually am going to include in the show notes a link to some images of the different handwritten ideas I had. I was like, what would this program need to include, right? And I wanted to make it into an acronym because those of us in rheumatology love acronyms or puns. And so um, I I toyed around with different things, and I also want it to be very evidence-based because there's not a lack of evidence for the things that help people on a day-to-day basis managing pain, fatigue. There's a lack of evidence of like how to actually make those things go away, right? We don't know how to completely make your pain go away or completely make your fatigue go away or completely make your stress go away. But there are ways to reduce those symptoms and variables and also improve your quality of life. Um, so I finally came up with it needs to cover things like logistical, tools for pain, right? It needs to cover tools for fatigue. And also it needs to cover the things patients are most frequently asking about or confused about. That first one that comes up is nutrition. What is the evidence for what's going to improve my maybe inflammation or disease activity or just improve my quality of life? Things like exercise and sleep as well. Those fall under habits. So I was like, okay, I can put that as habits. The T could be tools for pain and fatigue. H could be habits. R is relationships. So as I was like, it needs to also cover the social implications. I know from living with this, right? Like that there's so many common issues people have. Actually just giving you the microphone for a second, like what are some of the challenges for just to give the audience some examples that you've had, like maybe explaining it to friends and family or social implications of having AS?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really depends on the context, who you're talking to,
Hmm.
like that. So like whether you're sharing it with a friend that you've known forever, um,
Hmm.
that might be easier because I have found it in my experience, they still treat me for who they know I am. But if you're
Yeah.
introducing it to somebody who doesn't know you so well, whether that's a new friend or a faculty member of OT school or work related,
Mm.
you're like, do I share this? You kind of have this fear of like, are they going to just,
Yeah.
you hope they won't, but you always have that underlying fear of that. And then of course, like you said, family members as well. It's like they're a great support system, but um sometimes it can be hard to decide like how do you share about it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, just to put you on the spot. I just realized people are going to get bored just listening to me for too long. But yeah, exactly. That we actually have to have different kind of scripts for different relationships. And in that section, I've delineated it down to, tools for friendships and then tools for romantic relationships and dating, that marriage. That's a whole specific, there's some tools that apply to everything, like understanding what you can and can't control in your social relationships, right? I can control what I say. I can't control how someone else is going to perceive that or respond to that. And just that's kind of like a foundational like point we have to start out with. But then we can further delineate like how does chronic illness affect our relationships, our family relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, and work relationships. Those are the four kinds of relationships that I talk about in the official, Room to Thrive curriculum, which I should say, what I ended up doing is developing this into a real educational framework where I give these evidence-based tips through little lectures, pre-recorded lectures. And it's like I actually for almost called it like arthritis school. Because it's like you're going to school a little, but then I was talking to other people and they reminded me that a lot I liked school as a kid because I'm a nerd, a lot of people don't like school, so like they might not get excited about that idea like you are, and I'm like, oh, that's a good point. But so this is a course, it's a class to look. I thought the metaphor I end up using more often is an orientation manual, for your job. Like this is your orientation manual for the job of managing ankylosing spondylitis, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis. So, that's another reason, the relationship section, inner world, values, and executive functioning. Those four are all really the same, whether you have inflammatory arthritis type A or type B, right? Ankylosing spondylitis versus rheumatoid. Now, the tools for pain and fatigue and the habits are going to be slightly different, especially the tools for pain and fatigue, because if your back is hurting, it's a different set of tools than if your fingers are hurting, right? So, but that's one of the reasons I expanded it because I didn't, a lot of people were asking me, well, I have ankylosing spondylitis. Does your program apply to me? And I'm like, honestly, the majority of it does. But because it was branded as rheumatoid arthritis roadmap, people kind of didn't feel like they were really getting like the specific program that they needed necessarily, or that was the perception I was worried about. So that's the first three are tools for pain and fatigue, H is habits, R is relationships. And then, of course, we have to address mental health, right? We have to address, that's what I put for I, inner world in this framework. So we talk about, general tips for stress management and give people, first of all, normalize the fact that anxiety and depression are very common in the arthritis population. And a lot of people don't know that. Everyone feels like they're the only one. That's something I really learned when I started doing the support group component. But talking about what are ways we can improve our mental health, because mental health and our pain and our fatigue and our habits like sleep and exercise, they're all interrelated. Like they're called the space symptoms, according to the University of Michigan researchers: sleep, pain, affect, emotions, cognition, and energy or fatigue. They're all interrelated. So if we can improve our mental health, typically then the other factors improve. So that's the good news. So I go into like, talking about, actually talk about a lot. Building your coping toolbox is the goal of this section. So pulling from whatever tools make most sense to you. I give tools from cognitive behavior therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, mindfulness, and like relaxation practices. I even put humor in there, right? Because humor is a great tool for, feeling like you can rise above your situation. So that's the I. And the V is values and valued activities. This is really a fun one. This is the one that's really congruent with occupational therapy, right? My background as an occupational therapist, because the idea is to reconnect with what brings you meaning, what brings you value and joy in your life, and finding creative ways to still participate in those things despite your arthritis. Or if you can't participate in the exact same thing, because sometimes you can't, if you're favorite hobby is rock climbing, and your body is not allowing you to do that right now, I'm not gonna like gaslight you and to be like, you can just do it in a different way. Like sometimes there is no way to do the exact same activity in a modified way. We call them like adaptations and modifications. But is there, if you look at, kind of teach people how to say, okay, what is it? What's the underlying factor in this activity that brings you joy or meaning? Is it being in nature? Is it, and for some people, it could be something like a challenge, like surmounting a challenge, having a goal, helping people in the world, expressing yourself artistically through music or art. Is there a way to get at that same underlying goal in a different activity? Does that make sense? So
Totally.
yeah, that's a section that at first I felt like, oh man, people are going to be like, this is the least exciting section. I honestly thought that at first. I was worried because I feel like I don't know what I was worried. I was worried that like they felt like, okay, well, in tools for pain and fatigue, you're getting like all these concrete, specific tools, whereas I thought they would maybe perceive the values part to be more like fluffy. But actually, I've been surprised. A lot of people say that was their favorite section because it reminds them that they can still live a values oriented, meaningful life with their condition. And And the values part is also really congruent with acceptance and commitment therapy or ACT, because the T part of ACT is taking effective action towards living according to your values. And honestly, part of the section we end up doing is um, reconnecting with your own self-worth and valuing yourself and dismantling your own internalized ableism that might be getting in the way of you feeling like you're as worthy and valuable as a person because of your condition. And that's obviously like a very beautiful thing to do. And then the E is executive function. So all these are, again, they're based partly on research and also based on my own experience and my experience with all my arthritis friends of these. What are the pain points? What are the most difficult parts about learning how to cope with this? And executive functions is that's like the CEO of your brain. That's like the stuff on your frontal lobe. But in this case, I'm talking about the all of the adulting tasks or the job of managing your condition, like managing appointments, managing your medication, ordering your medications, dealing with insurance, dealing with side effects, organizing your medical records, developing a team around you. It's exhausting, right? I know you have spent a lot of time with insurance the last year, right?
A lot of time.
Yeah, and unfortunately I don't have like the magic words to say to like change the insurance system in the United States. Believe me, if I did, I would use them. But it's a way like this is at least giving you skills and tools to approach those conversations and also approach not only I mentioned insurance, but also improve your communication with your provider, plan and prepare for appointments, keep track of your symptoms, all those things. Again, they're not things everyone needs to be doing every single day, but they're tools in your toolbox. So that's the educational program I developed, and it walks you through each of these things. And in addition, there's like a one arthritis 101 section before we start with the tools for pain and fatigue, where I just talk about, I realize people need like a dictionary or an understanding of like, what is a flare up? What is a DMARD? There's so many acronyms like for people with rheumatic diseases. So, and also confusion about what is your condition. Someone said, well, I have psoriatic arthritis. Does that mean I have rheumatoid arthritis? It's like, no, like no one's explained to people like what they actually have and what's going on. So I have kind of a basic inflammation 101, rheumatic disease 101. What are the differences between the different conditions? And so it's a lot. That's the paradox of developing a program like this, is that I want to give people the most information the earliest on in their journey, right? So that they don't have to find it all on their own and suffer through kind of that the painful part of like having 200 tabs open on your internet browser, right? And having to make sense of everything on your own. And there's so much conflicting information out there. I want to kind of be like, I'm the tour guide or the orientation, leader that will help you make sense of everything. But the problem is if one of people's pain points is that they're overwhelmed, then I'm giving them a lot of information. That's kind of the part that's tricky, and each person's different. Some people are like, I'm a sponge. I want to dive into this and listen to every hour of the materials within 24 hours. Whereas other people are like, I need it to be kind of, they call it like dripped out, So when I do, so the self-paced course, people can take the Room to Thrive self-paced course anytime on their own time. And I have a recommended like viewing schedule of like so that you could get done with it within 12 weeks, and just kind of take a few videos a week. But when we do the support group program, I'll explain more of that a little bit later. But they, we have like, we break it down into little chunks and have like a topic of the week each week, which makes it a lot more manageable and less overwhelming. But yeah, initially I developed it as like an educational program, and I thought maybe I'll have like a Q&A, like a question and answer kind of section or live question and answer for people to participate in as they're taking the program. That was in 2020. I did a beta program of that. And then I realized people actually are like, they loved being able to talk to other patients during that time. And they really wanted to kind of share their experiences in a more of a traditional support group structure. So then I decided to add that as well.
I think you said all of that so beautifully. I know from my own experience and so many other stories, they get to their appointments, navigate getting a diagnosis, and then it's like, okay, good luck, see you later. Try these meds and see if they work, and if they don't, we'll do something else. And then you were just left completely on your own with something that can and totally has the potential to impact every facet of your life.
Mm.
So I think having all of that is so valuable for sure, and definitely
Yeah.
gives people a realistic sense of hope.
Yeah.
The next,
Yes, yes. That's one of the things you and I have talked about a lot is I think a lot of people who run kind of programs that are targeted to help people with autoimmune diseases, the kind of hope that they are giving is the hope that you're going to be able to, or that the promise of their programs sometimes, and what I see a lot on like Instagram kind of influencers and stuff, is that if you take my program, you're going to be able to banish your fatigue, banish your pain. If you just follow this diet, you're going to be able to solve this puzzle of your condition. And I think the tightrope that I'm trying to walk, and the phrase you and I have said to each other many times, is this realistic sense of hope of the idea that I am ethically unwilling to, I'm not going to mislead people. Obviously, I don't want to do that. There are no, I want to give you a sense of hope that there are things you can do that are going to increase the likelihood that you can reduce your pain and reduce your fatigue. But there, unfortunately, with autoimmune disease, like there are no simple, easy answers a lot of the time, or if there are, they don't always last. And so we have to equip ourselves with the understanding that there's going to be things out of our control. But the idea, the reason I still have thrive in there is that, like, can we thrive with those unknowns? Can we thrive with the lingering symptoms? To me, that's a lot more actually empowering than making your hope, all of your hope, contingent on managing your symptoms, because that's a tall order in autoimmune disease. And a lot of these programs that say that a promise to do that don't work for everyone.
for
Um,
sure, that side seems to sometimes have like toxic positivity in a way where it's
yeah.
invalidating of the experience you're going through. Whereas I feel like from all that I've seen of Arthritis Life and Thrive, um, there's validation and understanding of symptoms and what happens in life because like you get it.
Yeah.
Kind of been there, done that kind of a thing. And I think that is so valuable. And so empowering too to say like, okay, like even though there are some things out of your control and some things that will fluctuate, there are tools that people can be equipped with to have a better quality of life for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to pull up here some testimonials for later. Um, but there was one that I really liked that basically that the person said that, it didn't I appreciate how the information, this is from, let me see if they allow me to use their name. I don't know if I won't say their name because I didn't get their permission. But they gave permission to share this information without their name. I appreciate how the information was straightforward, relevant, and research based. I appreciate how it didn't sugarcoat things, but it made me feel more hopeful than I did at the beginning of the course. So
Awesome.
I thought that was a good way to say, like I don't want to sugarcoat things as it's like there's a old, I don't know if it's a quote or a saying with someone's like, would you rather be right or happy? Like, that's a hard question for me to answer, right? Because I want to be happy so badly, and I want to make other people happy. I would much rather say to everyone, I have the solution. Like, all you have to do is take Rheum to Thrive, and you're never gonna feel badly again. It's almost like, but that's not possible, right? There is no simple solutions. But in a way, maybe this sounds too meta, but like you will feel less bad about feeling bad, or like it won't necessarily, everything won't in your life won't get better, but you're going to change your relationship through the program. If most people, and I could practically guarantee this. I probably can guarantee this. And if you don't feel this way after the program, you definitely can get, your money back. But I guarantee that you will change your relationship to, or your view towards your illness by the end. You will have a different relationship, and I would say for most people, more peaceful and accepting. I know that's a word not a lot of people like, but accepting as in like accepting the fluctuations, accepting that you can do everything right and still get a flare up. It's actually a more peaceful way to approach your condition. Again, I'm saying this as a recovered control freak rather than saying all you have to do is like use my toolbox and then you're going to always be able to manage your symptoms. Or always be able to successfully reduce them. Again, you definitely are more likely to reduce your pain and fatigue if you have a toolbox of evidence-based tools to do so. But you're not. These diseases are ephemeral and they're fluctuating and they're tricky. And what worked yesterday doesn't always work tomorrow. So I don't think we should set our sights on complete symptom control. So that's why it's weird for me to like promote the program sometimes, because I'm like, I'm not willing to guarantee, right? I just guarantee that you're going to be able to like make everything, quote unquote, better, but you'll feel better about your life and your possibilities of still living a good life with the condition. That's what I could guarantee.
Right. And like giving exposure to so many valuable tools and resources and like guiding to correct or like good resources rather than people having to do the work on their own of saying like, is this article accurate or not? Or
Yes.
like, is this, trying to find the right things because you have done that work and really digging through that research and connecting with other professionals to make
Hmm.
it such a quality program. Um,
Hmm.
Again, speaking from my own perspective here, but I think a big part of what is also helpful to so many people is like the support aspect too of being around
Yes.
others who really also get it. Especially because so many like rheumatic conditions have a lot of overlapping symptoms. Even if you have one diagnosis with more prominent symptoms, sometimes there are many aspects that can overlap. Um, and you can connect with others who can provide their own insight and support and validation and experience. So I guess using that to transition to our
Yeah.
next question here, how did you get started running the support groups option?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for circling back to that because I did want to say more. Um, at first, again, I was like, let's do just like a Q&A session and allow people to ask questions about the didactic, educational materials. And then I realized people were having such a positive experience connecting to each other that I think a more formal support group was warranted, So then I initially it was just a 4 week along with the course, and then it was 8 week. And I've experimented over the last 5 or 4 years with different lengths, but that's not the point. The idea is that I realized that having a consistent cohort, like so being able to start the program and end it with the same group and grow together was really a powerful experience. So I did experiment a little bit with an open-ended, like more of like a membership structure, right, where people can kind of come in and out. But it's harder to feel a sense of flow and actually honestly build like a core sense of trust in the group if people are constantly coming and going. So I've constantly iterated and tried to make the program better, every time. So right now, what it looks like is that we have a start date and an end date, and we meet for 12 or 13 times. And we have each meeting, we have a time to do that kind of Q&A session about the topic of the week, which is based on those pre-recorded course materials that they can go through in their own time. And that's something a lot of people that actually initially I gave at one point, anyway, it doesn't really matter, but at one point I actually gave the educational lecture during the live meeting, and then we would immediately ask Q&As about it. And that just took up a lot of time. That was like our precious time altogether in the group. So I ended up saying, okay, let me pre-record the course. Also, that allows it to be accessed by people who don't want a support group. I want to respect that. Like, I'm that person who's like, I always feel comfortable like talking about my life story, my feelings to like almost anyone, right? And that's not normal. No, that's not how everyone feels, right? It takes some people are like, I just want the information. I don't want the group. So I like said, okay, let me make sure to continue offering this pre-recorded course to people who might want to just take that and then offer the course plus the support group to people who want the support group. So we have the first kind of 15 to 20 minutes of the meeting. We have an icebreaker, and then we talk about the questions about the topic of the week. It could be tools for fatigue. It could be like yesterday's or Wednesday's meeting this week was the topic was like putting together your coping toolbox. It could be relationships. And then the last half of the meeting, it's open-ended support. Literally like share your events, your wins, your fails, your questions, your updates. And I have some additional like discussion, brainstorm questions if it's people, because it's a lot, it's a kind of an open-ended question, right? So sometimes people are like, they take it and run with it. Like, I want to vent about this and I want to share this win and I want to share this fail or this challenge. And yeah, what I love about it is that we have people in the groups that it's open to any adult who has inflammatory arthritis. So we have a diversity of ages in the group and diversity of lengths of diagnosis. So some people are 31 years old and got diagnosed a month ago. Some people are 55 years old and got diagnosed 15 years ago, and people asked me before, like, well, wouldn't it be better to have like just one cohort of just newly diagnosed people? And what's ended up being great about having a mix is that the people who had it longer kind of have like more like skills they've gained along the way, and it's therapeutic for them to share those skills or those ideas with the newbies, the true newbies. And the new people sometimes have more energy to put towards like reading the most up-to-date research, or maybe their rheumatologist has an idea that the other person's rheumatologist didn't have. So it's really, really cool to connect and across all geographic regions. I will say the diversity is not as much in the gender or racial and ethnic background. They're open to everyone, but typically it hasn't been as ethnically and racially diverse as I would hope, and same with gender. But it's primarily women, but it's open to anyone around the world. So we've had people from South America, people from, in Africa currently there's one, Australia, Japan, but primarily United States and Canada, also Europe. And yeah, and the people really, it's amazing how it bonds you to just share about the everyday challenges and of living with rheumatic disease, but also the everyday triumphs, the wins. It's so people are so excited when they can like come back to the group and be like, guess what? Like yesterday there was one that's, guess what? I advocated for myself in the appointment, just like we talked about, and I was scared, but I did it. And everyone cheers the person on and gives them little hearts and reactions in the chat. And the only other thing I want to say about the support groups is that I also have an alumni ongoing group that is more like that membership structure. So once you complete the 12, 13 weeks of the Room to Thrive program, which is usually the Room to Thrive support group is usually spread out over like 4 months. Then you're eligible to join the graduates. And that's a group. Some of us have now known each other for 4 years. This is a group where we've seen people go from, maybe one of the group members, she wanted to become a psychotherapist, but she was a little nervous about being able to balance the demands of her, condition and her disease with grad school. But now she's like graduating and doing her practicum. It's just amazing. Like we're really, truly like get to know each other on even a deeper level because it's an ongoing relationship. And that group you can come into and out of in different seasons of your life, depending on whatever else is going on with you. But so those are the two kind of support groups. And again, if you take the Room to Thrive self-paced course and you decide you want to join the support group later, you can always join it at the like a prorated rate. Like you don't have to pay for the whole thing again, just FYI. But yeah, it's been amazing. It's really been, it really is like one of those like dream projects, like I'm like, someone should do this, and then now I'm like, I'm doing it. This is amazing. Yeah.
I love that. There's so much value in connecting and sharing stories. So
Hmm.
cool, so important, I think. Another part of what makes a great program, I think, is getting feedback and evaluating also, which you've done such a great job with. Can you tell me more about responses from participants?
Yeah, yes. So I always take at the beginning of the program, I have people fill out a survey that's like where are you at right now? How confident do you feel managing different parts of your condition? And then I have them do it at the end. And the confidence almost always goes up in every dimension. How confident do you feel managing pain, managing fatigue, managing the social impacts of your condition, managing mental impacts? And so that's really important, just having that concrete, like quality or quantitative data that, okay, I want to make sure that's my goal of the program, is to empower people and increase their confidence in managing their condition. And then also there's the qualitative feedback, which is that, like I'll ask people to just share, like, what was some of what was your experience? Like, what can I do better? What was the highlight for you? And I have a lot of testimonials, and one I really liked recently from Anna, who gave me, permission to share. She said that she really liked the combination of a self-paced course with the live support group. With the structure and accountability of the upcoming live meetings, she found it easier to actually go along with the materials. And she said the support group was invaluable. It was worth its weight in gold to be able to honestly talk about what's going on for me without having to explain my illness or what it's like to live with a chronic variable condition, or to hear, have you tried XYZ? It cured my aunt. Or worst of all, having to manage the emotions of the person I'm talking to. Instead, I was met with understanding and support, and I got to offer it in return. I like that. I really think it's an underrated aspect of a support group, that it is therapeutic to you to offer your help and support to others in the group in addition to receiving, right? We tend to think of the benefit of a support group as you receive help and support from others, but it's really therapeutic to be able to offer it, because you don't even realize sometimes your own what you've learned along the way until you hear someone else struggle with what you already know how to deal with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. She also said, Anna said, I felt lost and alone before I started the program. And while it didn't solve all my symptoms, it certainly afforded me the opportunity to see it all through a new lens. And that's truly made a distinct difference in my quality of life. That's a better way of saying kind of what I was getting at before, about a realistic. And she said, thank you so much, Cheryl. This has been truly life altering. You know, um, you know, uh, let's see. Another one was Alyssa, who gave permission for me to share her name, said, I now feel the world post-diagnosis is not such a grim and isolating place, that there are others with RA, and having that community support has been uplifting and priceless. And one more, I mean, I have so many. These are just from the group that was the spring 2024. Rosie gave permission. She said, despite having rheumatoid arthritis and other associated autoimmune diseases for 20 years, after this workshop, she called it a workshop, that's fine, I am better at advocating for my needs, especially in medical settings. So I thought that's an aspect I haven't even emphasized as much before, but we really do talk about advocating for yourself, whether it's in the context of like a relationship or whether it's in the context of your doctor's appointments. Um, and, one other, Prakasha shared, this is a tremendously supportive, uplifting, and encouraging program. I loved it. It truly enabled me to feel less isolated with RA. I learned a lot and had the simple joy of being with others who totally understood. Ever grateful to Cheryl. Oh, thank you. So, yeah, so there's a lot of testimony, and there's actually these FTC, Federal Trade Commission guidelines around the use of testimonials, and I'm very much a rule follower. So, you're not supposed to just like cherry pick only the testimonials that are like really, really positive, right? You're supposed to give people like a sense, and I agree with that. I don't want to like, invest in a program where I feel like the person just like took like the two really good testimonials. I'm honestly saying, like, in a way, I'm almost like, I'm saying that these are representative. And I will say the only times that I've gotten, feedback were, some people are they're not emotionally ready to really open up to the idea of acceptance sometimes. And in those cases, I really think a one-on-one relationship, like with a therapist or counselor, is a better fit than a group support program. Group support is, in this case, we are there to kind of uplift each other and to validate each other's difficulties, but it's not a substitute for one-on-one professional therapy. And if you're in a really, really dark place, that I think having that one-on-one support with a trained professional is better than going into a group setting, because then you can work through some of that with your therapist, and then you might be more ready to delve into the stuff in a group setting. So you know, basically people, consistently say they feel more supported and more informed. And those are really the two arms of the program. Like there's education and there's support. So it's like the logic part of your brain and then the emotional part of your brain, right? And I think that most people feel, again, like most people, I'd say, at some point feel like they're doing it wrong. Like everyone else knows all the answers and they don't. So it can be very refreshing to feel like, oh wait, no, or to hear that everyone struggles and that's okay. We're all figuring it out together.
Yeah, I think that is super important to recognize that people might need varying things at varying points in their journey or depending on what's going on for them personally. But I can verify from the behind the curtain side of things
Oh
that
yeah.
Room to Thrive program gets so many glowing reviews and people tend to just really gain so much as far as quality of life. And like I think one thing that's so valuable too is like you were mentioning earlier with one of the previous testimonials, diving into the nitty gritty of what life is like with rheumatic disease, and taking it for what it is. Like if it is sad, it can be sad. And if it is happy, it can be happy. If it's neutral, then so be it. Without having to worry about so many other factors. Like you can just sit with people who get it. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree. And the other like the constructive criticism in the past, there's been a couple of times when people were like, especially when I used to give the lecture part, they were like, it was a lot more, they're like, it was too much of Cheryl talking and I wanted to talk to the other people in the group more, which is why I made that change to make the self-paced part separate, that you could do that without, or you could do that on your own, and then the meetings we have more time to connect to each other. So that's also true, or that's also like I just want to be sure to like say, you know, what has also been like, no, nothing's perfect, right? And
Able to
some,
like evolve the program based on feedback to like
yes.
consistently like meet needs as they as they come up, as evolve as you need to, I guess, which is really great.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people are more, or don't do as well with auditory learning, and they really like having, the lecture slides like printed out and stuff like that. So I didn't used to have that. I just had the videos, and then I started giving people the PDF copy of the educational materials as well. So there's a lot of little improvements we've made along the way.
That also allows people to kind of sit with the information as they go about their
Mhm.
week to process it, see how it applies to their everyday life throughout their week. And then
Yes.
when they show up to the support groups, they can be truly ready with like any questions that they have rather than having to think on the spot. So I think that's a really cool aspect of having that information ahead of time to be able to go at your own pace with too.
Yeah.
The next question I have is when will the next groups be? What's the schedule like for the groups?
Yes. So I'm really happy that even though I've iterated a lot over time, I am a creature of habit. Like I am happier when I know in advance what the schedule is going to be. So in 2024 and also 2025, I've offered one group or one set of groups from February to June for the support group option, and then one from September to January. So there's actually 13 meetings like between the beginning of February and the middle of June, and then there'll be 13 meetings between September and January. And it's really nice having that set schedule in advance. And we don't meet every single week. It's usually 3 times a month, just to give people some, usually because of holidays or giving people time to catch up. So that is the consistent schedule. And you can always see on my website. arthritis.theenthusiasticlife.com. There's under programs, there's Room to Thrive. Then you can see all the details about it. And get on the wait list. I do keep a wait list, which is just a list of people that are really the most interested in the next support group options. And they're the first ones to know about like early bird discounts and stuff like that. That is something you can join again from the website. And I'll also put a link to that in the show notes for today. But the self-paced course, again, if you're like, I'm really itching to to listen and watch these videos and get these PDFs, that self-paced course for Room to Thrive is open 24/7. People can just sign up for that online. And it is a paid program. Both of these are things that there's a fee for, but I do have like pay what you can options and sliding scale fees, because that's really important to me to make it accessible to people. And so you can also get information about that either on the website or just email me at info@myarthritislife.net. But I right now I am another kind of little peek into the future curtain is that right now I am the facilitator for all the groups. The new, we call them like the newbie cohorts, like the ones that start in February and September. But I want this program the support program to be accessible to as many people as it can be. And to make that happen, it can't just be tied to my availability, right? Because I'm in a certain time zone. I have a family. I have certain times I don't want to do meetings like, at 7 p.m. my time or something like that. And people have asked me, oh, do you do meetings at this time or Saturday morning, stuff like that. So my goal in 2025 is to train a small hand-picked handful of facilitators who've taken the program already, who can then I would pay them to facilitate future groups. And that's already happening a little bit with the graduate, like alumni group. I've already had that structure. Oh, and the graduate alumni group, we just do the support. There's no educational part of that. I mean, I definitely answer people's questions, but just structure wise, that's just an open ended kind of like it's like a friendship group at this point. We're friends and also support each other, and it's a real lifeline for a lot of people in that group. So did I answer the question? Yeah. Is there a consistent schedule? Yes, and potentially once I get a small group of other facilitators, I might have different start times, right? The reason I don't run any groups between July and August is because that's when my son is off of school, and I want to be able to take that time off to be with him and to do family stuff. But if I can get someone else to facilitate, then I'll be able to offer different times. But right now for 2025, I'm planning on the February start date and then the September start date. So depending on when you're listening to this, you can go to the show notes and see when the next group is if you're interested in the support option.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I know people can connect with you on social media like Instagram,
Yes.
Facebook. Can you just say again for people, in
Yes.
case, for a reminder if they have any questions, how they can get in touch with you?
Yes, I do have this Calendly link that if you want to do like a live 15-minute just video chat with me, sometimes people just want to like talk and ask their questions in a live session, live one-on-one. I'm happy to do that. That's like a totally free thing. Or I have you can also just some people are like, I don't like video chatting. I want to just ask via email. There's info@myarthritislife.net, or you can reach out via social media. And that's one thing I am working on is building my consistency with responding quickly to people. Sometimes I get overwhelmed, honestly, and I don't always have as fast of response times as I would like. So always feel free to ping me again if I didn't respond. But it's a huge priority to me to respond to the people who are interested in the group. So hopefully I will. I just sometimes things like they get lost in like an other folder on Facebook and Instagram. There's like a request folder that sometimes I forget to check. So email is always the most reliable because I'm in my email every day. That's again the info@myarthritislife.net, which myarthritislife.net is like a domain that I own that redirects you to the full URL, which is like arthritis.theenthusiasticlife.com. And so that's my main website. Yeah, and it's just I really hope if you're interested at all, please reach out, and you can also again get all the details on my website. And I do have a whole section on who the program's really good for and who is it not a good fit for. Because again, nothing is perfect for everyone, right? I say, It's a good fit for you if you have a rheumatic disease, inflammatory arthritis, and you're overwhelmed in figuring out how to manage your condition. You feel alone or would like to connect with others in a supportive environment for the support group option, and you're interested in learning how to manage the disease through lifestyle choices like mindfulness, exercise, altering how you approach tasks, and coping tools. And it's not a good fit for you if your primary goal is to cure or heal your condition. Like this program can be taken alongside complementary or alternative medicine, but I did not claim to teach a way to heal or cure your disease. And the focus is on minimizing symptoms and improving your quality of life, adapting to what's occurring in the present moment. But it's not about making everything go away because I don't think that's a very sustainable for me. That's not been a sustainable thing, and for the evidence I'm aware of, it's not the way that I resonate with the most.
Yeah,
And
I feel
or
the same way too. I think it's
Yeah,
very realistic, but also very, very comprehensive too.
yeah, yeah. So or if you're, also would say sometimes people are like, I really, really want to do a program that's like all about exercise. Like the whole program is exercise. Like this is a comprehensive self-management meant to be about, that again, like orientation manual to give you an understanding of all these different aspects of managing it. But if you want to do the deepest dive possible into exercise, there are people who run 3-month programs just on exercise, or just on nutrition. And that's maybe if that's where you are really interested in, then I can recommend some of those. So I'm really interested in people getting like what they need, right? I don't want someone to be disappointed in the program because it wasn't what they thought it would be. Like, so I honestly think that might be one of the reasons why the testimonials are so practically universally like glowing is because I hope I've done a good job differentiating for you and saying to you who this is not a good fit for. And so the people who are in the program are a good fit. So it's very much, again, designed to empower you to improve your confidence, improve your ability to navigate and to feel less isolated and alone and more supported. So yeah, if you're on the fence, I'm happy to chat with you about it. And yeah, I'm grateful to all the people who've taken it. Anyone listening, thank you if you've taken the program, and thank you, Lauren, for helping me behind the scenes and giving your feedback as well. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm just like thanking everyone. I have my Taylor Swift microphone now. I'm just gonna be like, thank you. It's hard. I'm usually on the other side, so I'm like, how do I end this? I don't know. Just
Yeah, I mean,
say thank
maybe I
you.
can help, but
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough. I think it is so valuable. And if you are living with rheumatic disease, and want to feel less alone and more empowered, like you need to know Cheryl.
Yeah. Oh, you're so
You
sweet.
within the network for sure.
And you need to know Lauren and our dogs. There's
Oh
Teddy
yeah.
taking a
If you're
little
watching
shit.
on YouTube with the video, you can see our pups hanging out in the background here.
Truman with his little chin on the armrest. I can't even handle. He's so cute.
He uses
He's
my furniture more than I do. I love it.
oh,
Likes
that's
to snooze
adorable.
and hang out.
Yay. Well, thank you again. And I look forward to hearing from anyone who has questions about the program. Yay.